premises. Second, the resolution expresses deep concern over economic and humanitarian situation in Afghanistan. UNAMA should continue to encourage the international community, in particular traditional donors, to increase assistance, support Afghanistan in addressing the humanitarian crisis and reintegrating returning refugees, promote economic recovery and regional cooperation, and strengthen the country's capacity for self-sustained development. The resolution also calls on UNAMA to facilitate access to assets of Afghanistan's central bank for the benefit of the Afghan people. We call on relevant countries to return Afghanistan's central bank assets as soon as possible, lift the illegal unilateral sanctions on Afghanistan, and create favorable conditions for its reconstruction and development. Third, the resolution reiterates its grave concern about the human rights situation in Afghanistan, in particular the rights of women. In line with the resolution, UNAMA should continue to engage with the Afghan government and the relevant parties to promote the effective protection of the fundamental rights of the Afghan people, particularly ensuring equal rights for women and girls in education, healthcare, employment, justice, and public life. We hope that the Afghan government will heed the legitimate calls of its people and the international community, take more proactive measures to protect human rights, especially the rights of women, and project an image of openness, inclusivity, and responsibility. Fourth, the resolution reflects the expectation that Afghanistan will reintegrate into the international community. UNAMA should continue to serve as a bridge, facilitate engagement and dialogue between the international community and the Afghan government, encourage Afghanistan to pursue inclusive governance and moderate policies, fulfill its international obligations, and return to the international community at an early date. We support the UN-led Doha process in playing its due role in this regard, and also support regional mechanisms such as the coordination and cooperation mechanism among Afghanistan's neighboring countries, the Moscow format, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in making greater contributions. The resolution reaffirms the importance of counterterrorism and expresses the hope that Afghanistan will strengthen counterterrorism cooperation with regional countries, eradicate all terrorist forces, and uphold common security. President, to support UNAMA in continuously enhancing its capacity and effectiveness in carrying out its mandate, the resolution requests the SG to conduct a strategic review of the mission and submit a report by the end of March next year. We look forward to the Secretariat consulting with the Afghan government, regional countries, and other relevant stakeholders, conducting a fair and objective assessment and putting forward practical and feasible recommendations. China stands ready to continue with all the other council members to support UNAMA in better fulfilling its mandate and make due contributions to lasting peace and stability in Afghanistan. I thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Madam President, the Russian Federation voted today in support of the Security Council resolution, which extended the mandate of the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan for 1 year. We welcome the efforts made by the Chinese penholders of the Afghan file to find compromise solutions. As a result, a collective document has been adopted with an emphasis on supporting the Afghan people in building a peaceful and prosperous Afghanistan free from terrorism and drugs. The main thing is that the current configuration of the areas of activity of UNAMA remains unchanged, and the mission will continue its work in Afghanistan in full. It is gratifying that the text reflected elements aimed at the economic development of the country, which should become the basis for the self-sufficiency of the Afghan state. In the interest of achieving consensus, we agreed with the persistent proposals of the U.S. delegation to instruct the UN Secretary General to prepare a strategic review of UNAMA's activities. It is our understanding that work on such a document should be based on a sober and objective analysis of the situation and be conducted in interaction with the authorities and take into account the needs of the Afghans themselves, primarily in the field of capacity building and humanitarian and socioeconomic assistance and development. Attempts to use this review so as to turn UNAMA into some kind of a structure exercising oversight in the interest of Western states that irresponsibly abandoned the country in 2021 are unacceptable. This will only put the UN presence as a whole at risk. We are disappointed that due to the unconstructive line of the U.S. delegation, the document does not reflect an important element concerning pragmatic cooperation on Afghanistan and broad diplomatic efforts aimed at a comprehensive settlement of the Afghan problem. It is regrettable that a country which signed an agreement with the Taliban movement behind the back of the former government continues dictating the terms and determining what this engagement should be and with whom. Madam President, today's decision of the Security Council is not only an expression of support for UNAMA, but also serves as a clear signal to the people of Afghanistan, showing them the commitment of the international community to establishing peace and stability in this long-suffering country. It was and remains imperative to maintain consistent interaction of the mission with the Afghan government to discuss all issues in strict accordance with their mandated tasks. Of particular importance is UNAMA's ability to discharge its duties in coordinating international humanitarian assistance to the country, providing support primarily to the most vulnerable groups of the population. And this is especially important given the unresolved issue of frozen assets and unprecedented unilateral sanctions. We are convinced that building long-term peace in the country is impossible without a realistic approach aiming at the subsequent international reintegration of Afghanistan. At its core is an objective assessment and patient dialogue with the Afghan authorities. There is no alternative to this. On this depends not only the successful implementation by UNAMA of its assigned tasks, but also its future as a whole. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for the statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, President. The United States thanks the dedicated staff of UNAMA as it carries out important work under difficult and often dangerous conditions. UNAMA's valuable reporting informs this Council's decisions on Afghanistan, where the situation remains dire. UNAMA's efforts to address the humanitarian crisis and to support dialogue have the potential to promote peace and security. For these reasons, the United States voted in favor of reauthorizing UNAMA's mandate. We appreciate the penholder and fellow council members' constructive engagement on this resolution. A streamlined, fit-for-purpose UNAMA mandate is essential. We look forward to the strategic review of the mission requested in this resolution. Such a review will enable this council to identify duplicative or unrealistic tasks to be removed, or to identify further changes that may be required to ensure UNAMA that produces results commensurate with the resources that UN member states invest in it. The appointment of a new SRSG to lead UNAMA is also an important step to ensuring UNAMA's effectiveness. We continue to encourage the Secretary General to quickly appoint a qualified candidate to this position. We must stress, however, that UNAMA's important contributions, even with an SRSG in place, cannot mitigate the urgent need for the appointment of a UN Special Envoy to lead the political process in Doha, as this council called for in its resolution 2721 in 2023. For that political process to succeed, the Taliban must act. The Taliban must meet their counterterrorism commitments, respect Afghanistan's international obligations, end hostage diplomacy, and cease their unconscionable abuses of the human rights of women and girls. The Taliban must additionally eliminate all restrictions that inflict harm on the Afghan people and impede UNAMA's ability to function, including those preventing Afghan female UN staff from entering UN premises. The United Nations must continue to work towards peace, security, and stability. We can all call on member states to join the United States in doing the same. Thank you.
Doy las gracias a la
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Madam President. Denmark welcomes the unanimous adoption of the renewal of UNAMA's mandate and thanks China as penholder for their dedicated efforts. With this resolution, the Security Council reaffirms its united support for UNAMA's vital work in Afghanistan. This importantly includes monitoring and reporting on human rights, protection of civilians, and violations and abuses against children, facilitating and improving humanitarian access for all, including women, and supporting the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women, civil society, and minorities in all diplomatic efforts and decision-making. Madam President, as the Taliban continues their systematic restrictions on the rights and freedoms of women and girls, Denmark has attached particular importance to preserving UNAMA's core human rights functions, including the promotion of gender equality and women's role in peace and security. We therefore welcome the retention of references to Resolution 1325 and related resolutions and stress the importance of implementing these commitments across UNAMA's work. Denmark remains deeply concerned by the growing risk of reprisals, violations, and abuses against women and girls, children, journalists, human rights defenders, health workers, and others. The recent arrests of women and the use of lethal force against protesters in Herat are a stark reminder of this reality. While we regret that these concerns could not be reflected explicitly in the resolution, monitoring and reporting on these developments will remain a central component of UNAMA's mandate. Madam President, as the Council has repeatedly underscored, there is no sustainable solution to Afghanistan challenges without a credible political path forward. Afghanistan cannot move closer to international reintegration while the Taliban continues to systematically deny women and girls their fundamental rights and freedoms. We therefore reiterate our call on the Taliban to heed this Council's demands and comply with international human rights obligations. Madam President, in closing, we urge the Secretary General to appoint a new SRSG without delay. Strong leadership will be critical to ensuring effective implementation of the mandate, advancing political engagement, and maintaining momentum behind the Doha process. I thank you.
las gracias a la
I thank the representative of Denmark, and I now give the floor to the representative of Latvia.
Thank you, Madam President. We thank the penholder, China, for their leadership and efforts to reach a consensus on the UNAMA mandate and welcome its unanimous renewal for 1 year. Latvia voted in favor of the resolution as the presence and work of UNAMA remains vital for the people of Afghanistan. Latvia appreciates that the resolution before us clearly reflects UNAMA's 3 core pillars: humanitarian coordination, human rights, and political track. And we welcome the inclusion of the following tasks in particular. First, we stress the importance of the resolution 1325 and subsequent resolutions on women, peace, and security in Afghanistan. A sustainable peace is impossible when women are denied their rights. We expect that the WPS agenda will be fully integrated throughout the mandate in a cross-cutting manner. Second, we welcome the provisions on monitoring and reporting on the human rights situation in Afghanistan within its mandate. We understand this to encompass violations, abuses, and reprisals against women, children, journalists, human rights defenders, healthcare, and humanitarian workers, as well as other specially protected groups under international human rights law. Third, we're pleased that this mandate includes monitoring and reporting on the impact of natural disasters, water scarcity, and broader environmental challenges. Afghanistan is among the countries most vulnerable to climate change. Its adverse effects are impacting the livelihoods of the Afghan people and to the overall security situation in the country. And we also unequivocally condemn the recent arrests of dozens of women in Herat and the excessive use of force against peaceful protesters. And we urge the Taliban to immediately comply with the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. As this Council has once again expressed in the resolution before us today, the absence of human rights and fundamental freedoms, in particular for women and girls, makes peace, stability, and prosperity in the country unattainable. So Latvia reiterates its unwavering support for the people of Afghanistan and will continue to stand firmly for the rights of Afghan women and girls. I thank you.
Doy las gracias.
I thank the representative of Latvia for the statement. And I now give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Madam President, Greece welcomes the adoption of this resolution and thanks the penholder China for their work and the conduct of the negotiating process. Greece voted in favor of this resolution, reiterating our unwavering support for UNAMA and for a strong mandate. We welcome the retention of all three pillars of UNAMA's mandate: the coordination of humanitarian assistance in Afghanistan, the promotion and protection of human rights, and the facilitation of political dialogue between the international community and the Taliban. Greece is particularly concerned by human rights violations in Afghanistan, especially regarding women's rights, as well as reprisals against activists and human rights defenders. We condemn all restrictions of the fundamental freedoms of the Afghan people, particularly women, including the ban on female Afghan UN employees for accessing UN premises. In this regard, we appreciate the human rights provisions of the mandate, including of the prevention and elimination of all forms of violence, including sexual and gender-based violence. We also welcome the engagement of civil society in the promotion of human rights and the political dialogue. At the same time, we would like to stress that the provisions on women, peace and security should be mainstreamed throughout UNAMA's mandate. Madam President, we believe that UNAMA's streamlined mandate will significantly enhance the effectiveness of the mission and that the requested strategic review will contribute to this end. We also reiterate our support for the swift appointment of a new special representative of the Secretary General to head UNAMA. We remain committed to working with our fellow Security Council members to ensure UNAMA's effective implementation of its mandate. I thank you. Doy las gracias.
I thank the representative of Greece for the statement. And I now give the floor to the representative of Bahrain.
Sayyida Rais.
Madam President, we thank the People's Republic of China as penholder for its efforts in preparing the draft resolution on extending the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan, UNAMA. We thank the President for holding negotiations with Council members to achieve consensus that ensures the continuation of the work of UNAMA at this stage. Madam President, we voted in favor of this draft resolution that extended UNAMA's mandate for 1 year, as we believe that it is important for the mission to continue its work and to avoid any vacuum that might affect the ability of the United Nations to play its role in Afghanistan. The Kingdom of Bahrain believes that the extension of UNAMA for 1 year provides a necessary framework for the continuation of its work in a stable and effective way, so that the mission is able to undertake its activities in a way that takes into account the developments on the ground. And it would be able to continue international efforts to assist Afghanistan and its people at this particular period of time. We stress the importance of the vital role played by UNAMA in following humanitarian, political, and security and economic developments in Afghanistan. UNAMA is playing a vital role in coordinating international efforts and providing assistance to the Afghan people. Madam President, the Kingdom of Bahrain is committed to supporting the prosperity and security of Afghanistan and its people. We're committed to supporting international efforts to maintain the unity, sovereignty of Afghanistan and fulfilling the aspirations of the Afghan people to development, security, and security. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Bahrain for the statement, and I now give the floor to Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the A3, namely the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, and my own country, Liberia. The A3 voted in favor of this resolution to renew the mandate of UNAMA. We commend the penholder, China, for its leadership and efforts that enabled the Council to once again demonstrate unity in support of the Afghan people. Madam President, the A3 reaffirms its strong support for UNAMA and acknowledges its indispensable role as the principal platform for international engagement with Afghanistan. The mission continues to play a critical role in supporting humanitarian coordination, facilitating dialogue, monitoring developments on the ground, and advancing efforts aimed at promoting peace, stability, and